It's going to be showing up like crazy here in a minute. Let's just say local radio didn't do well on my survey. WUNC had a good day. That's for sure.
That's not radio. That's WUNC.
That's not radio. Let me see. Thank you, Brandon. Britt. Aha! Share. Right post. Like crazy here now. Let's just say local radio. Please share and post. It should be showing up on my feed right now. And also on the Brad and Britt feed.
Let's see here.
$5. If anybody can tell me a better president than Donald Trump. $5, ladies and gentlemen. And do not say Millard Fillmore. Did we talk about Ed Harden getting fired yesterday?
No. Is he gone? They didn't even give him a goodbye column?
No, I don't think so. He's done.
Oh, my God. Wow.
Done, save, done. There are, for the entire state of North Carolina, there are 2 sports columnists, Scott Fowler and Luke DeCock, in the entire state, I think. I don't think Asheville has one. I don't think Hendersonville, Fayetteville, Durham. I don't think any of them have one.
There we go. Please share. There it is.
Already getting the retweets on the Twitter. So that's cool. It's going to be Carlos, isn't it? No.
You know, I had to do this. I saw Joe Biden was playing this really dirty song yesterday. Did you hear about it? It's
no, I haven't heard the story.
It's horrible.
That
it
is
is
funny.
just horrible. And I want to make sure that everybody, you know, because that's a game changer, don't you think?
Well, it's more of the senility of him. He doesn't even know what he's playing. The man is just.
Yeah, it's so sad.
It's just the saddest thing.
I hope someone really gets him to apologize at that town hall tonight. Okay. By the way, if he shows up.
Right. He's in the basement. He's in the basement, right? I never get tired of that, by the way. That's fresh and new.
The basement.
From the people who brought you, I'm in the bunker comes, hey, you're in the basement.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Ready when you are.
Okay. It is the Brad and Britt cast, and we are live with you in the 1:30 to about 2:30 hour. And then for you podcast fans, it's a little bit later than that, but that's okay. That's all right. We are fresh as today's cut grass.
That's exactly right.
Whatever that means. Now,
I don't know what that means either.
I'm trying to work this out, but there's a potential for greatness here. Okay. This is not a that much of a discussion point, although you could talk about how Bill Barr should be, you know, strung from the highest tree. Woman, won't you weep for me? Do.
Nice.
But he said, I believe it was yesterday or maybe Tuesday night, that and the great thing about the Trump regime is that 99% of the time they argue against a false premise. They have a straw man argument, which is where you argue against something that no one ever proposed or no one ever said.
Exactly.
And then you run from there. So he comes out at some speech, and guess where it was? Hillsdale College.
Who knew? Who knew?
Where, I don't know why he wasn't at the Harvard School of Government.
Stunning.
I don't know why they didn't have him there. But he said that the proposal of a national lockdown is the most egregious civil liberties violation since slavery.
Oh, sure.
Now,
sure.
Let's work that one for a second here.
Sure.
First of all, slavery wasn't just a civil rights violation.
No.
Okay.
No.
It wasn't like a poll tax.
No.
Okay.
No.
But okay. We'll grant him that because he's a lawyer and he speaks in lawyerese. But no one is proposing a national lockdown. And this is what they're running commercials. They're saying that that's what Joe Biden, and of course, that's not true. Let's just put that aside for a second. So if the proposal of a national lockdown, which doesn't exist, is the worst violation of civil liberties since slavery, then asking people to wear a mask, a national mask mandate that each governor would agree to, that would be equally egregious and an infringement on your rights. We know that because we have people who have shown up, not so much anymore. I don't think it's quite as frequent as it was, going into Walmart and confronting people for wearing a mask, going crazy when they're asked to wear a mask.
Right.
But if that is true, then what Donald Trump, who purports to be the greatest Republican president since Abe Lincoln, maybe even better, maybe he's done more for the blacks than Lincoln. If he is all about making fun of masks, not wearing masks, holding rallies with people not wearing masks, then he is the great emascipator. He can deliver the emasculation proclamation. Okay. He can go all the way. People think, and by the way, you know how often over the years you've heard sometimes where someone will make a Holocaust analogy and then they get pounded by the ADL and the Jewish groups.
Right.
You don't get to compare this to the Holocaust. Okay.
You don't because it's not. Only the Holocaust is the Holocaust.
Right. And you don't get to compare. Even if we told everybody you have to wear a mask or you're going to get fined $100 by the mask police, that's still not as bad as slavery was for the first 300 years of what became the country. And it's so sick. It's so over the top.
Fact check me on this, but didn't they compare Obamacare to slavery? Wasn't that one of the things that the Republicans said that it actually was?
I believe so.
I think there was some of that.
Right. The idea that Obama and Democrats who passed that law wanted to force people to not get as sick, to get health care was equivalent to by force slavery, making people work and under slave. Yes.
And I believe, and here's the funny thing. I think a couple of people who voted for that law for Obamacare, I think they were black. So they were actually voting for slavery. Isn't that the strangest thing? That those black people would be voting for slavery. I mean, it's absurd. It's absurd. It's so they're ignorant. They have no idea that they're actually voting for slavery. They just did it.
Right. I would like to roll this one out on the floor here and see whether we can settle this, which we can't, which is why it's kind of a good subject. There's no right or wrong answer here. But you may have seen the piece today in the Times. Does Biden need a higher gear? Some Democrats think so. So this is this is all about Joe Biden being very careful, not holding mass rallies, not ramping up the excitement the way Donald Trump does at his rallies. I think that he's doing this exactly the right way. Right. Certainly, you can't accuse him of peaking too soon. But we live in a different world right now. And it's my belief that whatever base Joe Biden has across all kinds of different groups realizes that electing a president is not about how many people you can draw to the Hershey, Pennsylvania arena on a Tuesday night at 7 o'clock and get them to scream for you while you lie for an hour and a half. I think that the country is more mature than that. And I also think that enough of the country has seen what happens when you, for any reason, believe that that is what makes a great political campaign in the year 2020. I believe that. And I think that the Biden campaign is doing this correctly. He's doing a town hall tonight on TV, on CNN. You're seeing him more frequently. And no, he's not out there in these gigantic crowds that are super spreader events. And if that's to be the demarcation line between the Biden campaign and the Trump campaign, I'm all for it. I just do not, especially because of the amount of early voting that's going to go on and the number of people who are sending in their ballots right now, not just where we are, but I think some other states now are sending them out. So by the end of September, that's 2 weeks from now, or let's make it a month from now, the middle of October, I'll bet you that we have anywhere from 40 to 50% of the entire vote already banked.
Interesting.
I'll bet you that. That's what and so therefore, this idea that you have to, the Beatles at Shea Stadium, it doesn't have to be that.
Right.
It does not have to be that.
It has to be Live Aid or some shit like that.
It doesn't have to be that because look what that brought America. And are those rallies creating new Trump voters? Are those rallies converting?
Brad, I would submit to you that those rallies are killing Trump voters. People don't want to admit this. I'm sorry. Hey, it's not even a joke. It's not even a joke. No. It's not even a joke. Those rallies are killing potential Trump voters. There are people that have gone to those rallies that will be dead, that will not have made provisions to vote early, and they will not be able to vote for Donald John Trump, their candidate, on the first Tuesday in November. I'm just saying. And for this higher gear thing, it really comes down to rally porn. That's what it is. It's just you see this great group of people, and it's massive. And why isn't Joe getting that? And I see these rallies for Trump. No, it doesn't. You're right. It doesn't mean anything. It means nothing. And I don't think people should buy into that. Again, I've always said it, and I'm sticking by it. Joe Biden is a good candidate. Joe Biden is not a great candidate. I don't need a great candidate right now. I'm perfectly okay with the good candidate. Now, I've also said that in the next few weeks, Joe Biden could become a great candidate, and he may be starting to do that. We'll find out when we get to the debates and all of that sort of stuff, because I think he's reaching the moment in history where it's time for him to grab the mantle. And I think that's going to happen. But I think you set yourself up for a lot of heartbreak by saying things that I think the American people are smarter than that. I think you do. You set yourself for a bit of heartache on that situation.
No, I'm willing to go there and then be disappointed later on and say, I'm sorry I gave you too much credit, America. You fell for it again. He did more. If the epitaph of this is Donald Trump kept doing rallies all over the country, and that somehow excited his base enough so that he would make up for the number of votes that he undeservedly didn't have against him in Wisconsin, Jill Stein, Gary Johnson, third party. Remember, these are all the way the campaign is talked about now, the way the 2016 race is talked about now. It's as if Donald Trump kicked Hillary Clinton's ass in those three states, and that's what did it.
That's right.
And we know that's not true. First of all, the margins were razor thin with third-party candidates and a libertarian, which was way greater than the difference between the two candidates. And most of those votes, we know, I don't care what kind of bullshit you see this, it would have been split equally. Nobody knows. Yes, people know. We do know. We do know, because you've met too many people. I've met too many people. And I remember who were saying, I just can't vote for either of them. They're equal.
Right.
Okay.
Right. They're the same. Yeah.
Well, okay. If they were equal, then what do you think is going on right now? Do you think that many people think that Joe Biden and Donald Trump are equal? I don't think so.
I'm not hearing that argument at all. That's an argument I'm not even hearing from the Trump campaign about. They're exactly the same. They've tried to draw a very sharp distinction between Donald Trump and Joe Biden. The distinction that was made by the Donald Trump people is that Joe Biden has had 50 years in public office. He hadn't done shit. That's essentially what they're saying. And they're also saying that the lawlessness you're seeing across America and the cops being killed and stuff, Joe Biden is completely for that. You're going to see a lot of that. He's going to, I don't know, build free houses in the suburbs and make black people move next to you. I believe that's part of the Donald Trump that's baked into the cake there. So yeah, there's a sharp distinction. They're not trying to say it's the same. So yeah, that's not really working in 2020 at all.
And I think a level of desperation, in addition to, as Trump used to like to say about many people, they shouldn't even be allowed to run. They shouldn't even be allowed to breathe. They shouldn't be allowed to live. Donald Trump should not be allowed to do any of those things based on his retweet of that third-rate, second-grade level video that was done by some right-wing troll farm in who the hell knows where it was.
Ukraine,
where they yeah, couldn't be Russia. It's all Ukraine.
It's all Ukraine.
Where they substituted, what is it, Fuck the Police? Is that the song?
Yeah, that's right.
From NWA from 30 years ago.
That's right.
For Despacito, which when the first I saw of the story was just Joe Biden playing that. And of course, the miracle was that Biden could fire up the audio that quickly and get it right. It doesn't matter how old you are. No. Sometimes you just can't get the damn thing to work on the first punch. And he got it, and it was nice. And so Trump retweets the substitution of the audio there, right. And he knew what he was doing. And you get the game here, which is 4 billion people see it, and only 3 people see the correction or the fact that it wasn't the right thing. So it worked.
Well, that's the Jared Kushner theory, right? That's what you were telling us about that yesterday.
Right. And
a lie goes around the world before the truth can get out of bed and put its shoes on.
Now,
that's how it works.
There is no way that Trump is not going to be nailed on this by a reporter, or God forbid he ever is stupid enough to actually do a town hall again where a black person stands up there and just murders him for doing that. Mm-hmm. He should have to get out of the race just for that. It was so egregiously horrible. It really was.
Here's a little history.
Worst.
For those of you that forgot, by the way, Despacito is a terrible song, and Joe Biden should be punished for picking that in the first place. If you ever heard the song, it's a really shitty song.
I understand that, but in the context of a political campaign like that, where he's doing, I like the fact that when you're pandering, mm-hmm. you're being really obvious about it. You're not, right. He didn't put up a
hello, young people,
right.
Hello,
young Chicanos. Yeah.
Hello, fellow millennials.
I mean, he wasn't trying to hide it. He wasn't. No. It was fine.
So,
it was
a little history lesson. This was the era when "Fuck the Police" came out, and then Ice-T had a band, and they had a song called "Cop Killer," and it was about that sort of thing. And this is at a time when the LAPD was rampantly. Sorry, again, history bears this out. They were sending squads into black neighborhoods in places like Long Beach, and they were gunning down black people without due process, without anything, or as Donald Trump would call it, making America great again. And you'll recall that Charlton Heston, who was a member of Time Warner's, I think, board at that time, stood up and he read some of the lyrics to Cop Killer, and he was very outraged about the entire thing. Charlton Heston happened to be also the president of the NRA at that time, who had advocated.
Did he read it like Charlton Heston?
He did.
Like
I'm going to dust some cops off. I'm going to dust some pigs off. It's got quite a ditty to it, doesn't it? He was trying to shame them into dropping the thing. So, of course, Charlton Heston was also the head of the NRA, who had advocated for so-called cop killer bullets, which actually were responsible for more deaths of police officers than rap lyrics, as it turns out. But Time Warner they made Ice-T take the song off of the Body Count album. That was the name of the band, and they replaced it with something else. And that was and I think Dan Quayle was the point man on this one. I believe Dan Quayle was like the heavy hand on this whole situation, calling out Ice-T and calling out NWA for their antics and stuff. So that was a little history lesson as to what was going on in the late 80s in America.
Some people might think it was a little TMI on that.
Maybe possibly a little bit
just
too much.
Just a little bit too much information.
I don't like
remember,
the surface issue.
But remember, it's not about the facts or the history behind the song.
Right. But we're on a podcast, so we can do that sort of thing. That's how that works out. So yes, that is what happens. And Despacito was replaced by that. And now Joe Biden, of course, is advocating for the death of cops.
I would have gone with Suavecito by Malo.
It's a terrible song too. What are you just picking out like the worst songs of all time?
What about Desperado by the Eagles?
Much better.
By Linda Ronstadt.
The Linda Ronstadt version may be the superior one. As you said, now that they've tried to position Donald Trump as the non-lockdown candidate, Dan Forrest, who is running for governor in the great state of North Carolina, has positioned himself as the no-mask candidate. Lieutenant Governor Dan Forrest says when he is elected governor, he will mandate, he says, no masks will be mandated, Brad. It's a very simple selection for you if you're voting for governor. Roy Cooper, masks. Dan Forrest, no masks. Choice is yours, North Carolina. Which way are you going to go?
Well,
whose side are you on?
I think you're giving everybody this time a little bit too much credit, because I think you can boil it down to freedom or slavery.
There we go. Freedom or slavery. Roy Cooper, the slavery candidate from, as we know, the Democrat Party, and I'm going to use the slur. They were the ones that were pro-slavery. That was the Democrat Party, right? That's how it goes. The narrative is put forward by the Republicans.
Yeah. Yeah. Did the slaves wear masks? No, they wore schmatas.
In fact, Dan Forrest has said that any Confederate statues that are still standing in places like Graham, North Carolina, will not be allowed to have masks put on them. That is how he is advocating for this right now. And I think it's
wear it, own it.
You know, as far as it goes, it's good branding for him. It's like, hey, dumbasses, come home. That's basically the Dan Forrest campaign slogan at this point, isn't it?
Well, I think if that's what you're down to, you're losing. You're losing, because people are going nuts over the idea that their kids can't get back in school, and the answer to getting kids back in school, if you believe, is just an order to open schools with no regard for the teachers or the custodians or the administrative staff being around a bunch of little snot-nosed kids who, by the way, you know this to be true. We all know this to be true. Under perfect conditions of the past, which America was perfect until 6 months ago, teachers would always be careful of catching shit from the kids.
Always.
In elementary school, right? It was always a thing. So if it was always a thing then what is it now? It's the same thing, except it's coronavirus. So this idea that you can run around and campaign and say, elect me, and everybody will be back in school. It's just not that simple. It just isn't.
Can I tell you something?
By the way, remember last week, and I love the way that we find this out through memos that aren't supposed to be seen.
Right.
I think FEMA said that the death rate went up 17% last week. Remember how you've seen the curve looks like it's a little bit going down on new cases around the country, but the death rate suddenly last week perked back up, which is not a good thing. But we're not supposed to know about that, so you didn't know about that. So don't worry.
Can I tell you? I have a completely anecdotal story, which I think stories are in and of themselves. But I have a complete anecdote. I know someone who was very frustrated with distance learning. Have a small child. I think the child's maybe 6 or 7 years old, and the kid was struggling.
It's terrible. Nobody likes it. It's terrible.
It's awful. She goes, I can't stand it. We're not doing it anymore. They found a private school near them that would accept the child where he could have in-person learning with other students. Mm-hmm. Within 2 days, the child tested positive for strep throat. 2 days. And they're lucky it was only strep throat. Don't you think? I mean, it's anecdotal, but I think there is something there.
Yeah.
And these are people that
it's better anecdotal than the entire history of NWA.
It wasn't the whole history. It was what Charlton Heston was doing with the National Rifle Association and their bullshit back in the late 80s. It's very instructive.
You just hated the 10 Commandments the first time you saw it. You've been on Heston's ass ever since then.
By the way, that's when we first got those bumper stickers that said, "My president is Charlton Heston." Do you remember those?
No, I don't.
You don't remember seeing those bumper stickers? They were everywhere, Brad.
Oh, by the way, I'm glad you. Have you noticed
when Bill Clinton was elected, they had bumper stickers saying because people didn't like him. It said, "My president is Charlton Heston."
I just don't remember seeing them.
Okay.
I don't remember. Have you noticed there are no bumper stickers on anybody's car this year?
Well, don't you?
How many times? I mean, every once in a while you'll see a Trump or a Biden, but compared to whatever the good old days were, or when America was great, or when people.
But don't you think that's because people don't want to get their tires flattened or their cars?
I understand that.
Don't you think that's it?
Does that not get into at some level the country becoming so split apart?
Oh yeah.
That if I have a bumper sticker on the back of my car that says I'm a fan of Trump, I'm a fan of Biden, and by doing that, I take a chance that you're going to run me off the road or shoot me when you drive by. We've got a problem in the country. We've got a problem.
You either have nothing or you have people who have jacked up 4x4 trucks with Trump flags that are as big as King Kong's face, or a guy with a motorcycle, again, with a flag that looks like he's going to a University of Alabama football game.
I did see a Trump truck. I did see one a pickup truck with the flags on it the other day at the corner of Friendly and Guilford College.
There you go. There you go. You're not going to see. So, and somehow this equates into, look at the massive support for Donald Trump. You know, those pussy Biden supporters who supposedly love him, they don't have the balls to do that sort of thing. And that gets back to the boat rallies, the stupid ass boat rally. Look at all these boat rallies. You don't see boat rallies for Biden. Nobody's doing that. Like it means anything. Like any of that shit means anything and translates to actual votes. It just doesn't, right?
Well, it doesn't unless he wins. And then everything that we're saying will be wrong again. And, you know, we would live in another 4 years of deterioration of the country and the Constitution and Donald Trump. Look at the way he behaves now. Imagine if he were to be the president without having to tailor every disgusting move that he makes towards thinking whatever he's doing helps him get reelected, because he's not going to be able to run again. He doesn't need to. He will be president for the rest of his life, which could be another 20 years, as you know.
Mm-hmm.
The yard sign thing, that's a disturbing one. Okay. But on the other hand, Trump people, they are more pugnacious and they are more likely to, if not put a bumper sticker on their car, but to put the signs up and do all those things. But the other day, Trump tweeted out, I think this was before a rally, he tweeted out a picture of somebody with like 100 Trump signs in their yard. Thank you very much, blah, blah, blah. All right. Somebody, there's a program that you can click on a picture and see where it originated from or how old it is. And It turns out, of course, this picture was from 4 years ago. And Trump tweeted it out
nonetheless.
As if it's now. But
nonetheless, doesn't matter.
Yeah, right. Nothing matters. Context does not matter.
Nothing.
Time doesn't matter.
No, shut up.
Joe Biden may not have played the cop killer song, but damn it, he wanted to.
He wanted to. The wrong
song came up. He wanted to play.
It's on his Spotify playlist. You bet. Wait a minute, I got to make up a fake Joe Biden playlist with "Fuck the Police" and "Cop Killer," and I got to do all that stuff. Is there a song called "I Hate Crackers"? Because if there is, I should go ahead and put that on there too. And then I'll release that, and then Donald Trump can retweet it. It'll be the greatest thing ever. He'll just get it out there in the national discussion. It'll be the most important thing of all time. Yeah. No, you're right. They're the ones that are going to be the most pugnacious, and it's all about. I mean, that's what this has all been about. Is like owning the libs.
Yeah.
That was what it was all about. It wasn't about whether they actually thought Hillary Clinton was a better candidate for president or not. It was about like making Cousin Fern all pissed off because we hate Cousin Fern because she listens to NPR and sips Chardonnay on the weekend. So if we can piss her off and Donald Trump can win, we did. So we shoved it in her face. Of course, we screwed ourselves, but hey, no big deal. White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows today joining President Trump in pushing back against Centers for Disease Control and Prevention Director Robert Redfield's comments on a timeline for a possible coronavirus vaccine, saying that Redfield was not clued into what those closest to the process know about vaccine distribution. Redfield said in congressional testimony earlier this week that a vaccine would not be available to the general American public until mid-2021. Trump told reporters that Redfield made a mistake and was confused by questions from lawmakers insisting that a vaccine would be available to the public immediately once it was deemed viable. If I were a betting man, I would bet on President Trump, Meadows told the hosts of Fox and Friends, and I don't know how they got him, Brad. Based on what I know behind the scenes, how quickly we are moving on the clinical trials, I think we will have at least some results in October. As we start to look at those results, I can tell you the president is pushing very hard to make sure that we're delivering a vaccine before the end of the year, Brad. Mark Meadows running out for his boy, blocking for his boy.
Here's the point. Point is that even under their crazy fantasy scenario of Donald Trump gets to announce that phase 3 trials of a vaccine have been approved by the FDA with no political pressure, of course, on October 20th, that will change the outcome of the election. And again, remember, half the votes, maybe more than that, will be in the can by then. So even if they could change or would change the outcome, they won't and they can't. But Donald Trump has muffed the response so badly that if he thinks that suddenly he's the man of science, he's the guy that changed the game, he's the guy that only Donald Trump was able to marshal the resources of our great pharmaceutical companies, who he bashes every chance he gets. Now they're the heroes. Even if that were all true, and even if they could produce hundreds of millions of doses of this instantly, Donald Trump, I think, would still lose the election because people are not going to forgive him. What he's done is unforgivable. Too many people are dead because of what he has done. But that's not going to happen anywhere. There won't even be that opportunity for that to occur. Because you know, and I know, and as Bob Dole used to say, the American people know.
American people know. Yeah, that's right.
That this sped up process of developing a vaccine, while it's sped up, it's not instant. It's not instant coffee. And it's still going to take many, many more months. And at best, it's a 2-shot vaccine. You have to get it and then wait a few weeks and then get a booster shot. And then they'll have to see how effective it is. And if they lower the standard and say, well, as long as it's 50% effective, let's get it out there.
Right.
Just wait till it gets out there at a 50% effective rate and people are still getting the damn virus. People are still getting sick who have taken the vaccine. That's the end of the industry. No one's ever going to listen to those people again. So Donald Trump, at least at this moment, is setting us up for, if possible, an even bigger disaster by putting political pressure on every agency associated with developing a vaccine, from the FDA to the Centers for Disease Control to putting that fucking ass freak show Michael Caputo in charge of all the communications. There is a brand new piece. It just broke at around noon on Politico that goes through the history of how that fucking asshole got that job. Guess how he got it. Guess how he got it. Donald Trump picked him personally. He went over the heads of everybody else who would be in the position to appoint a person to do that. And he was, of course, specifically brought in there to spin. Remember, a couple weeks ago, there was a story. Remember, it was the Trump administration was going to spend $250 million on a PR campaign to tell you how great things are going. Remember that story?
I do remember it. Yeah.
That's what that guy was doing. He was the total Heinrich Himmler of this whole situation. And He's got mental issues. I love the fact he's on a 60-day
medical leave. It's a medical leave.
No. You're fucking fired. You're done.
No, it's medical leave.
Get out of here. I love Trump's standard for not firing people.
It's amazing.
It's unbelievable.
It's amazing. Caputo, backed by his close friendship with Trump, was also granted broad power within HHS that led to clashes with career officials and politicized day-to-day activities that had not traditionally been subject to political interference. This is the Politico piece. He found jobs in HHS for at least 4 close friends and associates. Sometimes, sounds like a swamp to me, sometimes by creating new high-level positions for them, a practice that some officials privately questioned. Caputo in May hired Gordon Hensley, who served as his spokesperson when he came under scrutiny through Bob Mueller's probe into Russian interference in the 2016 election, as a health department advisor, and in June added GOP communications consultant Natalie Baldassare as one of his aides at HHS after she worked at his old communications firm.
All you need to know is he's a buddy of Roger Stone.
Yeah.
He's Roger Stone's buddy. It never stops. And if America votes for another 4 years of this, God help us all. I don't know what else to say. That's all you got. I mean, that's it.
And speaking of pieces that just came out, there is a newly revealed investigation from the Washington Post that they've released saying that there were United States Postal Service documents showing an agency struggling to manage Trump, Amazon, and the pandemic. They were trying not to ship masks. The tension surfaced in April 9th meeting when Amazon executives stated their concerns about the Postal Service's economic plight amid the pandemic and questioned its viability to them as a continued shipping partner, according to the once secret memo circulated within the agency, which described the situation at an inflection point. The wide-ranging headache so troubled the USPS in early April, they ultimately foreshadowed a summer of upheaval, thrusting the once venerated mail service into a political maelstrom months before the presidential election. It goes into some of the details about what they've been going through and about some of the pressures that were put on by DeJoy and so on and so forth. So that is in the Washington Post. I'll go ahead and put that link up there for people that are watching right now. I'm not sure. That may be one of the most disgusting pieces of the Trump administration right now is what's going on with the Postal Service and trying to jack around with the votes, with mail-in voting.
It's so hard to decide what's the worst.
It is. I mean, it's almost unfair, really. But they've got some brand new documents in there showing some of that stuff. Yeah, the Caputo thing's very interesting. The Caputo thing is like because he was just a complete disaster from the very beginning. He was basically brought in there to counteract this Azar guy who was a pain in Donald Trump's ass, right?
Yeah,
that's essentially
hey, if you got a problem with the Health and Human Services Secretary, fire him.
Right.
But he couldn't fire him because he knew that Azar was generally right about things. And of course, remember this is just an iron law of Trumpism. Tell the truth, you're in trouble. Lie, you're cool.
Mm-hmm.
And by the way, I have no admiration for Alex Azar anyway. I think he's dreck too.
Really?
But on the scale of bad dreck, he's not quite at the bottom. So it's a continuum. It's not being the worst of the worst, but it's dreadful. It's just dreadful stuff. I want to I want to talk about one thing, one story that I saw earlier in the day, and it's about Yelp.
Okay.
Yelp has documented, and they're a pretty good gauge of what's going on in the country, that so far we have about 98,000 small businesses that have closed.
Right.
Forever. They're never coming back. 60% of all the small businesses that have closed during the pandemic are gone forever. All right. These are numbers that our president doesn't talk about. These are the numbers that don't show up every day on the closing numbers of the Dow Jones Industrial Average. Mm-hmm. These are the numbers that bespeak an economy that is so far in the ditch that we've never seen anything like it, or
Right.
no one's ever seen anything like it. And if this isn't addressed, if the Congress can't get together and put money in the pockets of the people who've been disemployed by this and do whatever they can to keep some of these businesses from completely going kaput, although it may be too late now, which congratulations, Republicans, you got your wish. You proved your point. They didn't need the money. You're right. They didn't. They went out of business. They're gone. They don't need the money now.
Yeah, right. Good job.
Right. But this is the perfect example of Republicans saying government's never the solution to the problem, so therefore government should never do anything. But of course, with no government, you cause problems, and then you prove your point that government doesn't work. This is what they've been doing. This is Ronald Reagan at his finest. That was his thing 40 years ago when he was running for president in 1980, right?
Right.
People think that's the most hilarious, pithy line ever. What is it, 13 words? I'm from the government, and I'm here to help. The worst words of the English language. And right now, we've got a country that's in real trouble. And for those of us fortunate not to have lost their jobs or not to have lost our homes or not to have to be juggling our lives based on children going to school or not going to school, I just think that if Joe Biden can keep addressing those kinds of issues, he will win, and he will win big. And everything else we're talking about will fall away as noise. And if Donald Trump wants to keep bragging that he brought back Big Ten football, and he wants to keep bragging that the stock market hits new highs, although not today. Check, people. Not today at all. And I mean, you want to talk about a thin hook to hang your coat on. I mean, Trump, forget the fact that he pulled an inside straight to win in 2016. If you look at the front page of the dreaded, nobody reads it anymore, Drudge Report, guess what it says? It says in big, bright blue letters that Arizona is blue. It says AZ blue, right? And
if he loses, that's it. I mean, I think that's it. If Arizona it goes blue, and if it does go for Joe Biden, I think that's game over.
And then below it, to piss off Trump even more, he links to an article that describes the Trump plan to win the
we don't need
whole
Florida
without winning Florida. Right. Okay. Now, remember, I think the rule is no Republican has won the White House without winning Florida since the end of World War II. They've always won Florida. They've always won Ohio too, but I think the Ohio thing goes back to the Civil War. Okay.
It does. Yeah, it does.
But Florida isn't just the new Ohio. It's double Ohio, right? They have 35 electoral votes. It's huge.
It's a big deal.
More than 10% of the number of electoral votes you need to win is Florida.
This is a particularly ass-kicking day for Drudge on Trump today because of those stories you mentioned, and then we've got another model who claims for Trump forced his tongue down her throat.
Well, that's not just a Drudge story. That's everywhere. That is all across every. He's
highlighting it, and he's got a lot of shooting. He's just kicking Trump's ass all the way. If you looked at this, you would think Donald Trump will lose the election. I mean, if he's lost Matt Drudge this clearly,
that's what I think.
Yeah, it very much.
This is Drudge placing bets. When he highlights something,
this is winners and losers. Yeah. If he loses Arizona, I would say this may be the year. If he loses Arizona, Texas is in play, and I think Georgia may be in play too. And there's no way if he loses two of those three states, he can't win. Forget it. It's over. And if he loses two of those three states, Florida's not going to go his way. We could be looking at a landslide. But I'm not. That doesn't mean everybody stop, relax, go to bed, don't vote, don't talk to your neighbor about this, and don't canvass. That means that to me is what looks like the reality as we speak on this day in 2020. We've still got a long way to go.
Things, but remember, just don't put a bumper sticker on your car because that could be dangerous.
And that's
Right.
how we'll finish our week. Again, if he resigns, we can do a special show. So
Yes, we
always be
can.
ready for that. That's always our deal.
Right.
Thank you guys. Don't forget shop.bradandbritt.com. That's our Amazon store. We'll see you on Monday.